Looking back, Patricia, I think my first clue that our marriage wasn't going to work probably should have been his rampant cocaine habit. Might have been that, I don't know. I guess it could have been the DUIs too, or maybe the lack of a driver's license or decent credit or a job. Might have been the felony charges. It's hard to say. All I know is these are easy things to overlook. I mean, what did I know about cocaine? I always thought this town was too small for street drugs. And as for the DUIs, well, those were a mistake. Youthful indiscretion, he said. Besides, he was already in AA when I met him, so I thought that was a good sign. Showed real promise. The lack of a driver's license had to do with the DUIs, so I couldn't really hold that against him twice. Bad credit was a result of no credit. I mean, who was going to give this guy a credit card, right? Especially with no job. And as for the felony charges, well, those were a surprise up until after the wedding. Yep. Pete was just one of those guys trouble followed, and I'm one of those girls who follows trouble. So I spent long days and nights trying to get him to come around to being the marrying kind, to be the man who spends his days looking for a job instead of drinking away his unemployment check. To be the man who helps with the dishes instead of passing out on the toilet. The man who shows up when his daughter is born instead of skipping town with his junkie girlfriend. I don't think it's that hard. Not in the grand scheme of things, not after all he's put us through. It's funny, but before I knew for sure that Caroline was conceived, I thought about leaving him, Patricia. I imagined throwing him to the wolves, or in his case, the county cops, just to see if he could make it without me. But before he even knew I'd considered evicting him, I took that pregnancy test, which came up positive, obviously. So when he got home, I told him what was what. I told him things just had to get better. It wasn't just about me and him anymore. We were a family. And then, amazingly, things got better. They really did. For about 16 hours. Then came the infamous conception reception the guys threw from downtown after they heard the news. Heard it was quite a rager. I probably would have gone if I'd known there was a party to celebrate my pregnancy, or if I'd known he'd meet you there. Leave it to Pete to pick up a girl at his own baby shower. Now, Patricia, you might be wondering why I'm writing you. And what I'm writing to ask you is pretty reasonable, so before you get all huffy and up in arms, I want you to know that I am not trying to win him back. Hell, I'm not even trying to get him to pay child support because I think collecting would be more trouble than it's actually worth. What I really want from you, and I guess from Pete, is my ring back. It's kind of important that I get it, and I know he took it when he left because he threatened to stab me if I didn't hand it over. Pretty sure he probably gave it to you as a promise of his love and fidelity. Or he sold it for crack, whatever one seemed like a better idea at the time. I don't know what happened to it, but I think I'd like to have it back. It isn't so much that it's worth anything. I mean, it's a little scrap of a diamond in a yellow gold setting, but I bought it for myself with the money I made working at the grocery store because I wanted people to stop asking me if I knew where Caroline's dad was. See, he never actually got me a wedding band even when we were married, which is fine. I don't feel the need to justify my relationships in jewelry, but eventually walking around in my fat stomach felt a little embarrassing without the ring. It's not so much that I was ashamed of myself or of my daughter, But if Pete, for not loving us enough to get sober, get a job, get a house in a good part of town, I bought the ring because I was tired of making excuses for a man that wasn't worth making excuses for. Someday, I want to give that ring to my daughter so I can lie to her. So I can tell her that her father was a good man who made a mistake, that he loved her enough, loved us enough to promise us forever, and even if he was too sick to keep it, he gave us this ring to remember a promise by. I think she deserves at least that, considering she'll probably never know the man. If you don't send the ring back, I'll assume you sold it for blow, which would be pretty standard for Pete. But I want you to know that it'd be too bad, really, if you'd done that. Some guys around town have been asking lots of questions about you too. And if you're getting this letter, I know where you are. I know because the last time Pete and I took a vacation, we were secretly laying low where you folks are now. So far you've been lucky. My delicate condition has made me a bit forgetful when, say, approached by a scary guy in a hoodie who hangs out by the 7-Eleven. But my guess is if that ring doesn't show up in about a week, my memory is gonna start getting real clear. You know what I mean. Hopefully you know what I mean, Patricia.